Hey everybody, good morning. We're reading in Judges this morning. I'm in Judges 6, which is a book about Gideon. And here we find the Israelites in trouble again. They just continuously do not listen to God. They continuously mingle with people who are not like-minded, who worship other gods, who lead them astray. Lord warns them it's going to happen, and it happens again and again and again. So here they are in Judges 6 for the umpteenth time, finding themselves under the rule of the Midians. And the Midians are so oppressive. They take everything that the Israelites grow. They are just really impoverished by them. And so they call out to the Lord, as they always do, and they ask for help. And the Lord says to them in Gideon 6 verses 7, when the Lord cried out, or when the Israelites cried out to the Lord, he said, I brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. I rescued you from the hand of the Egyptians. I delivered you from the hand of all your oppressors. I drove them out before you, and I gave you their land. I said to you that I am the Lord your God. Do not worship the gods of the Amorites in whose land you live. But you have not listened to me. And so that tells me God's like, listen, I told you this was going to happen. It continues to happen. You do this time and again. You will not listen to me. And then God's grace. He still saves them again. So he comes to a man named Gideon. Gideon is of the tribe of Manasseh, but he is in the clan. So there's clans within tribes, as many know if you study the beginning books of the Bible, like Genesis, Exodus, Leviticus, as they come out of Egypt's role and take back the land, then they're divided up into tribes and from their clans. And Gideon is of the clan of Abizarite. I don't know if I'm saying that right. Abizarite, which is the clan of Abizarite, which is the tribe of Manasseh. And the Lord comes to him and he says, Gideon, you're going to lead these people. You're going to lead the Israelites. You're going to lead your people so that they'll no longer be oppressed by the Midianites. And the first thing that Gideon says is, who, me? Are you sure, me? In Genesis or Judges 6 verses 15, pardon me, my Lord, Gideon replied. But how can I save Israel? My clan is the weakest in Manasseh, and I am the least in my family. God doesn't care. God does not care. He doesn't care if you're the smallest. He doesn't care if you're the weakest, the leastest. God can use you. God will use you. If he calls you, you need to have faith that he is going to use you. But that's the first thing that Gideon says. He's like, who, me? How can that be? I'm the smallest. I'm the weakest. But God says, yep, you. Yeah, you. And he says to him in the next verse, the Lord answered, I will be with you, which is just amazing to me. Because if the Lord calls you, you need to trust that he is going to be with you. He's not going to ask you to do anything that he's not going to walk right there with you to get done. So the next thing that just fascinates me is that Gideon, he hears this from the Lord. The Lord's there telling him. He appears to him underneath a tree, underneath the oak tree, and says this to him. And then Gideon's like, you know what? If it's really you, stay here while I go home and get things to bring back to you for an offering, to make an offering, if it's really you. And the Lord's answer to him is so amazing. In Judges 6, the end of verse 18, the Lord said, I'll wait. He says, I'll wait. That pulls at my heartstrings so hard because he's constantly saying that to us. He's going to wait. He knows when we're ready. He knows what we need. And he says, I'll wait. I'm right here. I'll wait. And the full verse says, and the Lord said, I will wait until you return. And how many of us have strayed from the Lord? How many of us have needed answers, waiting for answers, waiting on the Lord to give us what we need to satisfy that what he's calling us to do is what we're supposed to do. And the Lord is so patient, and all he says is, I'll wait. I'm right here. I'll wait. So then he goes and he gets a young goat and he brings it back and he does the offering. So you'd think this is enough to convince him that God is who he says he is and that God's told him to do what he told him to do. But no, not so for Gideon. We're going to find out later that a little bit later in the book of Judges, it says that he's still not convinced. So in Gideon 6:36, or in Judges 6:36, Gideon said to God, if you will save Israel from the hand as you promised, like if you will do this, look, I'm going to place a wool fleece on the threshing floor. If there is dew only on the fleece and the ground is dry, then I will know that you saved Israel, that you will save Israel from the hand. And this just is fascinating to me because here Gideon needs a second proof, a second evidence that God is who he says he is and is going to do what he says he's going to do. Because he already first doubted, then said prove it, and God waited, and he was there when he came back, which should have been proof enough. But now he's saying, if this is really true, then make this fleece wet in the morning and the ground dry. So the next verse tells us, and that is what happened. Gideon rose early in the day. He squeezed the fleece and wrung out the dew, a bowl full of water. I think that's in there to let us know that God doesn't do anything halfway. He does it abundantly. He goes above and beyond. That fleece was not just damp. It was so full of water, the ground dry, mind you, the ground dry. Fleece so full of water that he wrung it out, and it was a bowl full of water from that fleece. But that was not enough for Gideon. Then Gideon says, yeah, maybe that's a little bit of proof, but you know what? Just in case, guess what? Tomorrow morning, do the opposite. Make the fleece dry and the ground wet. So it still wasn't enough for him. He still needed more proof. But what's amazing to me is that verse 40 says, that night God did so. Because God knew Gideon needed more proof. He's probably frustrated, I'm sure, with the situation because like how much proof do you need? But we humans here on earth seem to need a ton of it. And we seem to need it time and time again. And we get it and we lose our faith and we go astray. We're more like the Israelites than we want to admit. And here it is. God was so patient. It says that night God did so. He waited. He did. He's going to continue to wait and do. And I just think the whole book of Judges 6 is such a fascinating read that God called the smallest and the weakest, that he gave him as much proof and evidence as he needed, as Gideon needed for his confidence. And as you read on, you're going to find out that Gideon did defeat the Midianites. In fact, there's even one more in 7 where he needs a second level of proof. God says to him, see if I can find it real quick. In Judges 7, verse 10, God says, if you are afraid to attack, go down to the camp with your servant, then listen to what they are saying, and afterwards you will be encouraged. So not only has he given him proof, but he continues to give him encouragement, proof and encouragement. When he goes down there, he hears some of the Midianites talking about a dream they had, and that read it yourself. It's a fascinating read. Don't want to give away the ending, but it's just continual. God continues to give Gideon what he needs, and I think he does that with us too. And again, just my favorite verse from this. So many people say they love the verse in the Bible that says Jesus wept. Some people love the verse that says Jesus laughed, because he does laugh. But for me, I think my new favorite verse is in Judges. And the Lord said, I'll wait. I will wait. I'll wait till you return. He's waiting on us. Return to him if you've gone astray. Ensure your faith if you've lost it. Get encouragement. And I'll see y'all next week. Love ya.